Conventional wisdom says if you're building a high-performance engine, you need a high-volume oil pump. On the right, standard volume small block forward oil pump housing. On the left, high-volume oil pump housing 302, 351. The difference in the pump is strictly due to the size of the impeller. Here you can see the high volume pump. Here you see the standard volume pump. Notice the height difference. With this height difference comes more mass. Yes, you will have a higher volume of oil with the high volume pump as opposed to the standard volume pump. With the high volume pump, with the taller impeller, you have more mass. More mass requires more energy. More energy sucks down horsepower while you're getting a higher volume of oil. Now, when is this a benefit to somebody with a high-performance engine? If you are running a remote cooling oil cooler, a remote filter system, or a remotely located oil pump, the higher volume, a remotely located anything related to the oil, then the high volume pump may take it for you. Remember, this is high volume. Both of these put out the same oil pressure, 30 to 65 psi. The difference is the volume. And don't forget the mass, because trust me, you're never going to beat physics, okay? Now, everybody dealing with small block Fords knows that when it comes to driving these oil pumps, the weak link is always the oil pump drive shaft in this, and they are identical. Now remember, the higher volume oil pump is going to increase volume, increase mass, increase drag. We're talking about driving this with the same size drive shaft. And for small block Fords, this is the weak link. So it's always recommended that you go with the heavier duty aftermarket model to drive these oil pumps. And that goes even if you're doing the standard one. Now, does higher horsepower also equate to the need for a higher volume oil pump? Not necessarily. In fact, check out David Vizar, check out John Liegenfelter, check out Salter Racing when they're talking about the high volume versus standard volume oil pumps. One of the first things that small block Ford owners have to think about, particularly when they're doing a roller engine, is you have to restrict the amount of, it's recommended rather, that you restrict the amount of oil going into the upper parts of the cylinders. Why? Even at standard volume, this thing pumps out quite a bit, and it can overwhelm it, and you don't need that much oiling on top of the Ford. Brian Salter talks about these with some of the aluminum head setups. Because of their design, oil tends to pool in the upper part of the heads, and in racing applications, racers running high volume oil pumps have actually run into circumstances where the pumps have literally pumped all the oil out of the pan and left it sitting in top of the cylinder heads. So in those cases, makes a great argument for going with standard volume oil pump. Ultimately, you're going to have to be the one that decides. Your pocketbook, maybe just your desires. Maybe you just want to have that high volume pump. But understand that your choices are going to dictate the final outcome. If it's not necessary, why bother? But ultimately, you decide which one you want. So I hope I've kind of made it clear about choices when it comes to high volume and standard volume oil pumps, and I hope this helps you see that difference. Now, for all of you other guys out there, you know, I'm a Chevrolet guy too. It's the same thing. The same thing. The other issue, let me back up for a second. Man, the crap you forget, you know? The other issue is Oil pressure is made up by your bearing clearances, not your oil pump choice. Bearing clearances dictate oil pressure. So if you're building a loose engine, or if you have an engine that, let's see, I think I saw something that said more than 25 thousandths, you'll definitely want to go with a high volume oil pump, because that engine will constantly be pouring oil outside of the bearings, as opposed to pushing it up into the journals as it should through the oil passages from the mains and everything. You get the picture. You know how the oiling system works. So those are considerations. So if you're building a stock engine, stick with it. If you've got a loose engine or an older engine, or you got oil coolers stuck to the back of the car or something of that nature, then high volume is going to be the way to go. Both of them will do the job adequately. We're sticking with the standard volume because we're putting the aluminum heads on the 302. And while we are not running the roller, we are going to be running the roller hydraulic setup in this engine as well. So standard volume is going to do the trick for us on the 302. So I hope this has helped you out with your oil pump choices, no matter what vehicle that you are putting it on. All right, we're Nathan No Bucks Garage. See you soon.